Shalom, Most High in Christ bless. This is Officer Sampson, and this is the Isaiah 11 mission. And this message is particularly for our people of West Africa, especially in the Gambia area and the rural area throughout. So we're going to start with the book of Isaiah, chapter 11 and verse 11. We're going to start there to show that our people of the diaspora throughout Africa who have been affected by the curses of Deuteronomy 28 are the biblical Israelites that the Bible is speaking about. Read what you got.
This is Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 11.
Come on.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea.
So throughout time, the Israelites have been scattered throughout all the regions of the earth. And the Lord now in these last days are calling his people back to repentance. His people throughout Africa, you are the biblical Israelites that the Bible speaks of. Give me the book of Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 1, because everything that we speak of today, we're going to prove all of our claims with Bible as well as with historical evidence. Read what you got.
This is Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 1.
Come on.
Woe to her that is filthy and polluted.
Read verse 10.
Verse 10.
Come on.
From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia.
From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. From the other side of the rivers of Ethiopia. Who will we find deep in Africa? Read.
My supplants, even the daughter of my dispersed.
The dispersed, the diaspora, are those Israelites who have no longer have a attachment to Israel, because through slavery, colonization, through apartheid, through various methods of war that's been calculated and taken upon our people, we have lost hold of our identity. But now we are going to prove without a shadow of a doubt that you are the biblical Israelites. We're going to bring up the first book that we have to prove these statements that we saying. Bring up that first book.
A new universal history of the religious rites, ceremonies, and customs of the whole world, or a complete and impartial view of all the religions and the various nations of the universe.
Now read that date from when this book was published.
1814.
So it's very imperative that you go back and research these old books. A lot of these books were stamped "Do not read" in America. Why? Because a large portion of the Israelites are here in America. A lot of these books were hidden from those of the diaspora of Africa. Why? Because they state and show your true biblical culture. It's evidence that they do not want you to know. Let's go inside this book and see what's this. Load it up.
This day of rest is very strictly observed, and the exercise of dancing, and this is likewise their day appointed for their circumcisions of their children.
This is not the first page. This is the second page. Start there at the highlighted portion.
Religion of the inhabitants of Nigerta or Nigeria. This Nigerta comprehends the several domains of Guata and Genisho and Tumbla and Milai, Sulus, Menegan, and Mandinka and Sanfra, and the kingdoms of Senegal, Gambia, and some of these Nigerians embrace the Mohammedan religion.
So these various kingdoms were at one particular point of time one kingdom. Gambia, Senegal, Timbuktu. All these various kingdoms were once upon a time a collective, right? So read that part right there.
The inhabitants of Senegal and the parts adjacent pay their respects to the moon with loud acclamations.
So a lot of times when you see these African tribes, they reverence the full moon. They get these customs from the Bible. But what has happened throughout time, they have mixed. Let's change the screen when I'm talking. Throughout time, they have mixed idolatrous practices with biblical practices. Like we just read there that throughout Senegal, and this region is not just the Senegal that we know today. It's comprised of various different tribes, as you read, Gambia being one of them. So throughout these different various regions, they gave reverence historically to the moon, but they mixed it with different idolatrous customs. I'm going to show you why. Go to the book of Numbers, chapter 10. Because they had various celebrations according to the moon. Read that right there. 10 and 10, come on.
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 10 and verse 10. Also in the day of your gladness, and in your solemn days, and the beginning of your months, ye shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings.
The beginning of the month was determined by the new moon, by the full moon. Read it.
And over the sacrifices of your peace offerings,
Read.
that they may be to you for a memorial before your God.
So it said through the beginning of the month. How do we determine when is the beginning of the month? Go to Sirach chapter 34, and we're going to start at verse 6. 43, and we're going to start at verse 6.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 43 and verse 6.
Come on.
He made the moon also to serve in her seasons, for a declaration of times and a sign of the world.
So the moon is a declaration of time. It shows you where in the calendar we are, determines by the moon. Why? Read on.
Verse 7. From the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreases in her perfection.
So when the moon is perfect, that's when it decreases. So when is the moon perfect? Full. It's a sign of feast. One of the feasts that we just spoke of is the new moon. The blowing of the trumpets on the beginning of the months. That is called the new moon celebration. It's a sign of feast. You determine when the biblical feast days are according to the moon. So these different European authors, when they went down to Senegal, they went down to Gambia, and they seen how our people were observing the moon, making sure and they had various celebrations according to the moon. It was all biblical. The problem is, throughout time, what would happen was we mixed ourselves with throughout the process of time, we mixed ourselves with the Nilotic Hamite traditions. I'm gonna show you. Finish that out.
Verse 8. The month is called after her name.
Come on.
Increasingly wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven.
So the month is called by her name. The word month itself comes from the moon. So, but the problem is, go back to that article, we're going to show you a major problem. Because through this various idolatrous customs that was kept was the reason for the downfall of our people throughout West Africa. The reason the white man was able to come and colonize our land is because the idolatrous practice. Go back to that article, that book, brother. Then finish that out.
The inhabitants of Senegal and the parts adjacent pay their respects to the moon with loud acclamations, and the religious worship is celebrated in the hollow trunks of the most spacious trees, and the idols who preside in these temples are honored with diverse oblations.
You see, that was the major sin that we committed. We committed idolatry. Go to the book of Psalms, chapter 137. Psalms 106, verse 36.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 106
Start at verse 34.
and verse 34.
Start at verse 33.
Verse 33. Because they provoked his spirit, so that he spake unadvisedly with his lips.
Come on.
They did not destroy the nations, concerning whom the Lord commanded them.
The Lord commanded the Israelites to destroy all the nations, all their neighboring nations, and to put them in subjection. But we did not do that. Ultimately, what we did when we went into the west coast of Africa, we started to mingle ourselves with the tribes that was already there. Read on.
Verse 35. But were mingled among the heathen, and learned their works, and they served their idols.
That was the part right there. When we got down to the west coast of Africa, we got down to Senegal, we got down to Gambia, we got down to Sierra Leone, we got down to Mali, Benin. When we got down to Burkina Faso, what we started to do was mix the practices and the inheritance that we got from the Most High God on Mount Sinai. What we started to do was mix them with the customs of the heathen. So no longer was we keeping the new moon in the way that God intended it, but we started to celebrate these various idols as well. Let's go back to that book and read the next portion.
But sometimes, indeed, they sacrificed the blood of beasts under the direction of and management of a king or priest.
See, all of these different sacrifices you find in the Bible. You find in the Bible, like we just read in Numbers 10, about on the new moons, there was various sacrifices that had to be kept on the new moon. Read that bottom line.
These priests, as we are informed, contracted no alliance with the Lensi, and they are expressly enjoined not to marry any woman whomsoever out of the Sedutor tribe.
So there was laws on marriage. There was laws on marriage on who the priest could marry and could not marry. Let's start with Deuteronomy chapter 7. There was laws on marriage on the priests were not able to marry outside of their tribe. Not only that, the priests were not allowed to marry any woman that had been defiled previously to him. Read it.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 3.
Come on.
Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son.
So these laws were being kept even when our people had started to slowly lose their identity. But the heritage and the laws were still being kept. Why? Because it had been passed down from their generation to generation, from their ancestors. Go to Leviticus chapter 21 and verse 1. Let's read some more about the commandments that the priest had to keep.
This is Leviticus chapter 21 and verse 1.
Come on.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Speak unto the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say unto them, There shall none be defiled for the dead among his people.
So there was the priest was not supposed to be defiled at all. Jump down to verse 7.
Verse 7. They shall not take a wife that is a whore, or profane, neither shall they take a woman put away from her husband.
So this was a law that was kept throughout our people. And when you go into the west coast of Africa, they still kept up these laws for a time period. The problem is they started to mix them with idolatry. And there was a major judgment that was prophesied to happen if that thing came to pass. We're going to show you with the next book. Go to the article. The article that's entitled Gambia, the Mandinko of Gambia.
The Mandinko of Gambia. Much of West African history was shaped by powerful empires that rose and fell between AD 400 and 1600. These empires, with names like Ghana, Mali, and Senegal, established caravan routes that brought new peoples and the religion of Islam to the areas of West Africa. Over the centuries that followed, Africans settled and developed their own culture until European slave ships landed to begin battering for human cargo.
Let's see what this culture was that they established. Read that next portion.
Caravan to the Gambia. The Mandinko were typically of such West African cultures. Mandinka warriors, probably on horseback, arrived at the Gambia River from their Mali homeland to the north in the 1300s.
Come on.
They eventually established some 20 small Mandinka kingdoms north and south of the river. Further migrations of the Mandinko into the Gambian area resulted in a stable population of about 90,000 people.
So a large portion of those who live in Gambia today descend from this tribe itself. So jump down to that paragraph that says many ancient West African people.
Many ancient West African people had held slaves. Generally, slaves were people who had been captured in war or were being punished for serious crimes like murder, adultery, or witchcraft.
See, murder, adultery, and witchcraft was still evil things in their eyes. Why? Because they held fast to the law, statutes, and commandments. A large portion of our people believe our people ancestors in Africa were all caught up in witchcraft. No. Those of West Africa in this area here, they held the commandments to a high esteem for a time. Read on.
The children of slaves were born slaves.
So this particular slavery that is referring to was the indentured servitude that we had in Africa. This slavery, right? It wasn't chattel slavery that we know today that was established by the white man, but it was a different type. Read on.
But members of the slave castes could gain some rights after living in a Mandinka village for 2 or more generations.
See, that's how you know that that wasn't the case, because they was treated like human beings, not like 3/5 of a man like here in America. Read on.
They could not be sold to anyone outside the village. They could not be killed by their owners without a trial. They were also given land to farm, which made it possible for them to buy their freedom.
So where do we find this in the Bible? Let's go to Leviticus. Leviticus 25 and 45.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 25 and verse 45. Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you.
Let's start at verse 33.
Verse 33. And if a man purchase
34, I'm sorry.
Verse 34. But the field of the suburbs of their cities may not be sold, for it is their perpetual possession. And if thy brother be waxen poor, and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt reveal him. Yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Take thou no usury of him, or increase.
Meaning not to take advantage of him, all right? Not take advantage of your brother, right? That's why they had laws set up to where these people could earn their freedom back, right? Read on.
But fear thy God, that thy brother may live with thee. Thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury, nor lend him thy victuals for increase. I am the Lord your God.
Verse 39.
Verse 39. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant, but as an hired servant, and as a sojourner. He shall be with thee, and shall serve thee until the year of Jubilee.
Right. So they was given fields so that they could try to earn their freedom back. Why? Because it was customarily that if your people was waxing poor, where he had to sell himself to you, as which we know today is slavery, or a bondman, or a servant, they had the opportunity to get their freedom back. Right? Read on.
Verse 41. And then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family.
Read.
And unto the possessions of his fathers shall he return.
Come on.
For they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen.
Just like we just read, they did not have the ability to sell them outside of the tribe. They didn't have that ability. The scriptures state you was not able to sell your brother as a bondman. Read.
Verse 43. Thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but shalt fear thy God.
Right. So the Lord, that the reasons they had those stipulations is because this was passed down there from generation to generation. Let's go to the next portion.
The Mandinka concept of land ownership was quite different from that of Western societies, and that in the Mandinka kingdoms, individuals could not buy, sell, or own plots of land, but land could be occupied and used by a group like a family or clan.
So that's what we was reading earlier. Go back to Leviticus. Leviticus 25 in start at verse 31.
Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 31. But the houses of the villages which have no wall round about them shall be counted as the fields of the country. They may be redeemed, and they shall go out in the Jubilee.
So they would have the opportunity as a family to get their home back. Here in America, they have a process in which when you lose your house to taxes or whatever, it's gone. But the Bible always stipulated that if a family had a particular piece of land, they could always have opportunity to get it back. Read on.
Verse 32. Notwithstanding the cities of the Levites and the houses of the cities of their possession, may the Levites redeem at any time. And if a man purchase of the Levites, then the house that was sold and the city of his possession shall go out in the year of Jubilee.
Meaning he be able to return it back after 7 years. Read.
For the houses of the cities of the Levites are their possessions among the children of Israel.
The Levitical priest was a family line. So just like we read there in the article, the land was passed down to families. Go back. So what we're showing is all the different similarities to how the customs of the Mandinka people are exactly what we read about in the Bible. Read down. Let's go down, scroll down a little bit. Scroll down some more. Stop. Read that right there.
Europeans in the Gambia. In 1455, the Portuguese became the first Europeans to enter the Gambia River. They were looking for gold.
So the Portuguese came into Gambia with the idea or the thought to steal the gold out of Gambia. Read on.
Instead, they found slaves.
They did what?
They found slaves. War captives that the Mandinka Manassas were anxious to sell.
So now they went against their customs because they wasn't supposed to sell these people to any other tribe, like we read above. But they began to get greedy once they met the white man. Read.
Especially for firearms.
By
the 1600s, the Portuguese, Spanish, and English were fully engaged in the transatlantic slave trade. The region around the Gambia River became one of the earliest sources of West African slaves. They were taken to the mines of Mexico and the sugar plantations of the Caribbean. About 5,000 slaves a year were shipped to America from the Gambia during the 17th and 18th centuries.
So a large portion of our people was shipped from Gambia all the way to Mexico, and their bloodline still there to this day. Read on.
Mandinka Manassas grew rich by raiding neighboring kingdoms and taking captives to be sold as slaves.
So now let's go. Why did this slavery occur? Go to Deuteronomy 28. Because this is the main proof on how we know that the people there in Gambia are the biblical Israelites. Read verse 15. Come on.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15.
Come on.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day,
Read.
that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So all these curses are the proof that we know that the people in Gambia are the biblical Israelites. Jump up to verse 42.
Verse 42. All thy trees and fruit of thy land shall
Stop 45, I mean.
Verse 45.
Come on.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
Because we didn't listen to God and destroy the nations, because we took part in their idolatrous customs, the Lord said he will bring these curses upon us. Let's read them. Verse 33.
Verse 33.
Come on.
The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knewest not eat up.
That is what happened when the Portuguese came in looking for gold. When they came in to take the gold, the resources, the bauxite, the platinum, the diamonds out of the land, that's what happened because we disobeyed God. And ultimately, what they ended up doing was taking our children. Verse 32, verse 42.
Verse 42.
Excuse me, verse 48.
Verse 48.
32, I'm sorry.
Verse 32.
Come on.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
What people was they given to? The Portuguese, the English, the Spaniards. These various European countries that came into Africa through the transatlantic slave trade stripped our children away and took them to places like what? Mexico, what we just read. Places throughout the Caribbean, like we just read. North America itself, America, US, Canada. These various tribes were taken from Gambia, stripped from their parents, and taken and shipped across the seas. Read on.
And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long.
Read.
And there shall be no might in thine hand.
Because there was never any military might for the people of Gambia to get their children back. Even to this day, a large portion of West African countries, they have militaries, but their militaries are incapable of getting these various European countries' hands out of their pockets. This is still going on to this day. Verse 68.
Verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
Slavery. The word Egypt means slavery. These are curses that came upon us because of our idolatrous practices. Read on.
Into Egypt again with ships.
Come on.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee.
Read.
Thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen.
We were sold to the white man for bondmen and bondwomen. Read on.
And no man shall buy you.
The buy is referring to the redeeming process that we had in Africa. When we was able to be redeemed, when we was able to buy our freedom, no man was able to redeem us. Because to this day, we are still at a disconnection. But the only man who's going to redeem us in these last days is Jesus the Christ. That's why it's very important for us to come out of these idolatrous practices, come out of these religions like Christianity, Islam, come back to your true nationality of being an Israelite and keeping God's statutes and commandments. So with that being said, we have proved that you brothers and sisters of Gambia are the biblical Israelites, and it's time to repent. That being said, shalom. Most High in Christ bless.
What is a nation? Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models.